my friends, and welcome to Dr. Russell's Language Arts Book Club. Our first unit, maybe we can call it our first season of our podcast, is about the novel The Great Gatsby. But before we can start reading, we've got to talk about the era that gave birth to The Great Gatsby, which many of us call the Roaring Twenties. But F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, calls this the Jazz Age. So the goal of this episode is to tell you, as I like to call it, why the Roaring Twenties were roaring. And there are so many reasons why the Roaring Twenties are roaring. I can only give you a few in our short podcast. But first, why did F. Scott Fitzgerald call the 1920s the Jazz Age? Well, the first reason is obvious. We have this new-fangled, fancy dancing music called jazz. Not the elevated music we think of today. It was a total party back then. And because our new fancy dancing music is party music, then that means life is a party. We've got this new technology, we've got radios in our houses, and it is a carefree era. And it is being run by young people like yourself. People in their teens, people in their 20s are shaping what makes America America during this time that we call the Roaring Twenties. So here, my friends, are a few reasons why the Roaring Twenties were roaring, which provides a little context for what happens in the novel that we will be reading together, The Great Gatsby. The first reason why the Roaring Twenties were roaring is because we survived a pandemic. A pandemic at the time that was called the Spanish flu, but the effects of the pandemic are not unlike the effects of COVID-19. So by the 1920s, we can leave the house without masks. We can celebrate that we have survived this global pandemic. And so that's the kind of energy that people were entering the Roaring Twenties with. But if surviving a pandemic isn't enough, we have also emerged as heroes. American soldiers have emerged as heroes at the end of World War I. So this global war, bigger than we've ever seen ever, has now come to a close. Our families, those who survived, have returned home. Our brothers, our fathers, our uncles, our husbands, etc. have returned home, those who were able, and they've come back heroes, and we are ready to celebrate why the Roaring Twenties were roaring. In addition, we have what's called this post-war economy. So we have gone from skimping and saving and everyone doing their part for the war efforts. Well, now the war is over. The economy has gone way, 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 way up, and we can spend our money on having fun, on things like leisure. We can go to the movies, we can go to the theater, we can go to the jazz clubs. Roaring, roaring, roaring 20s. On top of that end of World War I, women can vote. So we see something called the new woman. Women more independent, their hair is short, they're showing ankle, they're showing shin, their skirts are shorter, and they are taking up space in the world. And they are a huge part of what makes the Roaring Twenties roaring, and we will see some fantastic examples of this new woman in The Great Gatsby as soon as we start reading. And lastly, we have cars. We no longer have to ride around in a horse and buggy. Everyone's got cars. So car culture, much like it is in New Jersey, is huge in the 1920s. We can go anywhere we want. And you'll see cars play a big role in The Great Gatsby as well. So, why were the Roaring Twenties roaring? A review. We survived a pandemic, number one. The World War I is over. This global conflict has ended, number two. That has caused, number three, our economy to go way up. So we've got money to spend. Women can vote, so they have got a whole new world opens up for women that they intend to explore and shape for their own. And we have cars so we can hop in and go anywhere we want and meet all kinds of new people. And that, my friends, is why the Roaring Twenties were roaring and what makes The Great Gatsby so very exciting.